does an ideal week look like for you compared to maybe a busy week? Because I know some people have this idea that they need to work 80 hours a week to be successful. And it's a preconceived idea that comes from money mindset, doesn't it? It's like, well, my parents worked really hard, so that's what I have to do.
Yeah.
What are you doing? Because we know that you earn at least 6 figures in your business. You have big launches. What does that look like for you?
Yeah. I mean, a typical week, like, I've always said, I wish I had like this perfect answer, because I've been asked this question a number of different ways. And I always like to say, like, I wish I was like, oh, I do the miracle morning every day, and I wake up and I meditate for 10 minutes, and then I'm just so blissed out while I drink my coffee and look over the ocean. Like, but it's really not like that. Like, for me, an ideal week is, look, I work about 20, 25 hours, and I have the rest of the time to do what I want. For me, one of the biggest things was I used to work through the weekends, and I don't really work the weekends anymore. Sometimes I may step in, like, if I've got a little bit of time on a Sunday, or I'm behind schedule on something, I may step into the office, which is what you're seeing right now. I work from home. So I might step into the office for an hour or so. But for the most part, an ideal week for me is, look, I'm not overworked. I'm not exhausted. I'm working a reasonable amount in the business that we're moving forward. We're making progress. We're hitting our goals. We're hitting our requirements. I think there's kind of this shift that happens that maybe you guys have even seen when you're doing something like a summit or a launch. As your business grows, like, it goes from, I'm trying to grow the business, to I'm hitting my I don't want to say qualifications, but I'm hitting my targets. I'm hitting what needs to get done. I'm achieving what needs to be done. So for me, an ideal week is, look, I work about 4 to 5 hours a day. I'm hitting those targets, and we're moving forward in the business. And that's not this ideal of like, oh, I wake up and I feel great, and at 10 a.m. to 2 p.m., like, that's my work block. Like, some days I do work 8 hours. Some days I work 4 hours. But ideally, I'm working somewhere between 20, 25, 30 hours. And then in a launch week, I'm working like 40, 50 hours, maybe 60 if it gets super crazy. But an ideal week for me is just like, look, the business operates in a way that creates the lifestyle that I want, which is to do what I want, when I want, how I want, which means I'm self-contained. The other thing that I think will answer this question in a little more exciting way is, I don't schedule anything before 11 a.m.
Perfect.
And with
just about to take it on ourselves, yeah.
Yep. And then with reservation, like, rarely do I schedule anything after 5 p.m. I'm actually doing this a little after 5 p.m. because you guys are in Australia. Every once in a while I pick up an Australia client, but I have like a rule where I'm like, look, I'm not working after 5 p.m. more than 2 or 3 hours a week if I have to. So it's like, it's this healthy medium of like, look, I don't have this perfect life or this perfect business where everything runs perfect at exactly 4 hours a day. But I'm also setting up boundaries where, look, if I don't want to work after a certain time, or I'm not working at a certain time, like, that is allowed to be, because it's my business, it's my rules. So I don't work first thing in the morning. I don't work last thing in the evening. And outside of that, I'm free to go with the ebb and flow of every day, where if I'm in a creative flow that I want an 8-hour day, awesome. And if I'm in a creative slump where I want a 3-hour day, awesome. I can do that too.
Yeah, absolutely. So this probably leads us into, life hasn't always been like this for you in business. Like, you've gotten to a point where it's quite good, but I'm sure there were some struggles earlier on through the journey.
Yesterday.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, there's always, things we're coming up against, and it doesn't matter what level we get to. It just seems to be newer, bigger, different, whatever things. But how about you share a little bit about some struggles that you had to overcome to be able to maybe up level so that you could get to this sort of...
Sure. I mean, the biggest struggle that I had to overcome to up level was really outsourcing. And I say this all the time, that this was one of the biggest things for me, because the first year in my business, I set an arbitrary metric of $100,000. Once I do $100,000 in revenue, then I can hire someone to help me. And I won't say that like I never hired help, or that I didn't outsource like little one-off tasks, but I like actively refused to bring in a virtual assistant to manage my inbox. And the irony is, to this day, I don't manage my inbox well at all. In fact, I don't even really know how we ended up on this call, because I didn't schedule the call. I actually had my assistant over the other day, and she was like, did you send everything over to Courts and Christie? And I was like, no, I totally didn't. Like, let me get on that. So I put up so much resistance to being like, you have to have a certain level of success before you can have someone supporting you. You have to be at a certain level of success to have an assistant. I still don't really love the term assistant, but that's what I have, is I have an assistant and a virtual assistant.